everyone. Colleen Gallagher here and Alexander Mei. I'm super excited to be here for the Colleen Gallagher Podcast. We are in 2021. I cannot believe it, or I should say I can believe it. We are adding video to the podcast this year, which is super exciting. So we're so grateful you're here. We're so honored, and we just feel grateful to be co-creating this space with you. Now, whatever channel you listen to the podcast on, if you could please like it, if you can please leave a review so people know to listen to it with their time, as the intention with this podcast is to combine spirituality and business for you to really evolve into who you're meant to become. And so every episode that I do is either with myself or I've co-created a conversation with many people for you to be a fly on a wall. And today we are doing a very special thing with January. We are doing a 4-episode podcast series with Alexander Mei, and we'll have him introduce himself in a moment. But for those of you who don't know what that would look like, what we're going to be doing is every Monday we have an episode that released. And just as we start this year, we wanted to really create a space for you to understand what emotions are coming up for you. What just happened in 2020? Why did it happen? And how do we really start to understand healing within our body? Healing as an empowerment and healing as a tool to get us to where we want to go on our journey. And so with that, Alexander, please introduce yourself.
Hello. Hi, I'm Alexander Mei, and I am a psychic medium healer. Some people call me a light worker. I call myself a light warrior, and I combine all those things together. And I've been studying since I was 9, and I've been a professional light warrior / healer psychic medium for 11 years. Yeah.
I love this. And so what we're super excited about, you guys, we're going to have 4 different topics, and this series goes together. So if you're watching any of the episodes, you're probably going to start at the very beginning, which is this one, episode 42. And with this one, what we really wanted to dive into, we actually had a podcast conversation before. We had a lot of you liked it. We have like 60 something downloads in less than a couple months. Wow. Yeah. So that's like super exciting for a brand new podcast. But what we want to do is we want to talk about what is this system. So we are in a process right now of transition in the earth. And we want to talk to you like what's the system of what's happening transition with what's happening with the government, what's happening with spirituality and religion as it's evolving, and what's specifically happening around health. What is the system of that? And so to first go into it, I guess we can have you share from your perspective what you've seen the system to be, and then really how that's going into the body. So how the system has been designed to keep the body sick instead of really empowering the soul to flourish.
Oh, sure. Okay. So how the system has kept the body sick. So for example, I would have to say the first word that comes up is media. So it's like first it was like media. How, like, for example, when I went back home, when I was living in Canada and I moved back home, I noticed that every morning, my friends and their family members, their moms and their dads would wake up and they would drink coffee and watch CNN and Fox News. But immediately I noticed that there's this like ticker tape of doom on the bottom of the screen where it's like little girl dies and blah, 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 bombing happens and blah, 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 blah. And it's like this, it doesn't say anything great that's happened. It's all things that are negative, horrible, or like what death, like, you know what I mean?
And I want to pause because even when you're saying that, for those of you listening, like I can actually feel when you like started saying it, my nervous system, like my stomach's going up. Like I could feel like this thing in my body of like, ooh, death, this. And there was actually something that I heard for those of you listening that, I don't know if it was Dr. Peter Levon, but there was a doctor who studied this, and they said, even if you're seeing something on the news, if you're seeing it, your body doesn't know the difference between someone else experiencing it and you actually going through it.
Yeah, exactly.
And so with that, I really love that you're saying that, because the system is very deep in that whatever you're watching, even the words that we're watching and things that we could just be hearing in the background when we're in a store, is influencing us in ways we can't even imagine.
We have no idea. I mean, well, some of us are aware of it, but most people in the mass populace doesn't even know that they're in it. You know? You don't really know you're in it until you're in it. It's kind of like being in a cult, you know? So I've been saying this lately of like that we're all stuck in the cult of media and don't even know. It's like a spiral. So then once you become aware that you've been stuck in the cult of the media, then you can come out of it. But most people don't know that that's what's affecting them on a daily basis. Like, for example, I never, you know how you said you could feel it in your nervous system. Like, I never really understood how much watching certain things or seeing certain things could affect my nervous system until like maybe recently, since doing combo.
I love it. And what I want to, why also where I want to have this conversation, you guys, is that when we're talking about what is the system, so we just dealt with a whole year of basically this COVID-19 that was released, and there was a lot of unknownness, a lot of things, and the media was saying one thing, then you have people in social media, which is decentralized media, also sharing a lot of truth. You have people that got kicked off platforms that are also trying to share their voice or their truth on it. And what I wanted to share, I guess I think it's really important of what I believe COVID-19, why it's occurred, and why it's important to understand the system, the true systems, not the implanted systems to keep you stuck, is that COVID-19 attacks the lungs, right? And the lungs, if you look at lung cancer, it's near the heart. And right now, this is the cosmos, even after we just entered the age of Aquarius, like there's literally things that are shifting in our solar system. There's things scientists are finding out that we never knew before. Like there was things that literally like people have studied and studied and studied, and we're finding out more things. And now we're actually in like the space race of who's actually gonna like get out there as the first country to like start claiming space. Like that's a real thing. And so with COVID, it was to the heart because we're being asked to open. We're being asked to have our hearts feel. And a lot of us, our whole life, we have felt safe. We have felt unsafe, I should say, or we have felt challenged to feel, because when we expressed our feelings before, it really caused rejection or disruption in our system. So we actually just created a protection mechanism around our heart to close and to shut down. And so COVID was here to go towards the heart, to open the heart, because where we're going in the world, that's the way of the future. It's the way of the now. I shouldn't say the future. It's the way of the now, is that to be open and to feel and experience. And so what is the system really? Is anything that was keeping you in a space of not feeling, of not having your heart open, of not expressing. And so that relates to the body, as you just said, in so many ways, of when you would watch the news growing up, with people be on their coffee and CNN and Fox, and kind of what I'm sharing as well. And so I just want you guys to know, like in this time of health, we're really moving to wellness, and it's your responsibility to heal. It's your responsibility to become healthy. It's not any Western medicine's job or pharmaceutical, because they will always have you stuck in a repetitive cycle of needing it instead of tuning into what opportunities you could expand in your body. And so that was really important. So the other thing I want to talk about a little bit with your opinion as we go from like, that's the system. What's Western medicine with the system as far as it goes? Let's say healing, psychic medium versus I'm going to go to this doctor, do this thing.
Sure. So, okay, that's really awesome subject to ask about. So usually whenever someone comes to me or to someone else to take a look at the body, we take a look at what's happening to the mental body, the physical body, and the spirit body, right? And so within the first 2 minutes of talking to someone over the phone or in person, I can see where it's coming from. Is it the matriarchal lineage? Is it the patriarchal lineage? And when I say that, I mean, like, let me, prime example. Also like doing like this because you can see my nails. But yeah.
I love.
But I'll give you the best example. So I used to be really racist towards Asian people. I couldn't figure out why. And in my first theta healing class, when I took a theta healing class, which is created by Vienna Steibel, I went into my patriarchal lineage because that's where it was coming from. That's the origin of where the racism was coming from. And I cleared it out with my teacher, Beatrice Blanco. And immediately I felt different. It wasn't just mentally how I felt towards Asian people. It was my body. like, there wasn't this like repulsion towards anything. And then I went on a date with this really hot guy that was from Japan. Then like literally days after that, and I realized that like I had it physically stuck in my body, but the way that she could tell was, oh, it's your physical and your mental, and it comes from your father's line. So mental, physical, but not spiritual. But that's how you really can start to see where it's coming from in the origin of certain things, as opposed to like, well, we're just going to give you like this like 5N or whatever, like you're like, you have anxiety, here's a Xanax, like,
Yeah, and I love that, because the thing that you're saying, and the thing that we really want to communicate here, or as we're starting this year, is for you to understand that the system, anything external to you is false of the system.
Sure.
Theta healing is something that's always been internal. It's actually sounds vibrations with frequency. Like there's much more to it, but it goes into a specific, like your brain can be measured in theta wave. Like there's things that this is natural. It's not produced for you to consume.
Sure, yeah.
And I think that's why it's so important for you to start understanding when you're listening. That's like, what system are you functioning in, and how much of the system are you actually playing in? Because we like to disassociate and think that, oh, it doesn't matter if I get that plastic water bottle, but it does. And the thing is that we want to blame the system for failing us, but you are in total control of either being part of the system or falling back into the truth of the natural organic system breathing on this planet.
Sure, yeah.
And so I think it's really important what you said. So the other thing that I want to go into, we talked about it a little bit, but I want to go a little bit more. We talked about the nervous system, we brought it up, but how does the nervous system relate to the body, which is in that whole system of the body?
So the nervous system is a very interesting thing because and in relation to the body, because I always go back to this whenever I describe this. When I died, I've died twice in my life and come back, but each time I remember that once I left my body, that my body was just made of light. It wasn't with a nervous system, right? And so when I died, I had a conversation with God, which I'm writing the book about that right now, called Death is Boring. That's actually the name of my book. I remember God was like, you do realize the reason why you keep getting reincarnated? And I'm like, no, why? I'm like, because you don't have a nervous system when you're dead. Because you can't experience things like pleasure and orgasms and like, you're like, like how, it's just like all light. And so what we don't realize is that our nervous system, our gut, and all of these things are interconnected with each other. And when we do anything to disassociate or to numb ourselves out, we're actually shutting it down. We think that we're calming ourselves down with like drugs or alcohol or with other things, but actually anything that we do, Colleen, to make us forget that we're in here massively affects the nervous system.
I love that you're saying this, because so on my walks, I do walks a lot. For those of you who follow me know that, but I started maybe 2 weeks ago where I'm on my walks now, and that when I'm on it, I stop and I actually touch a tree, and I'm like, really this. And so I started doing this, and I would turn my headphones off and I sit there, and you can actually feel the drop of your nervous system, and you can actually start to like, you literally sync with the tree. And I know this sounds crazy for those of you listening. Like, I'd be like, this woman is batshit crazy. Like years ago, you guys, I would have been like, what is this person talking about? But even this morning I did, this was like totally, I wasn't on any plant medicine or anything. Like this is literally just in the morning. And I could literally like feel by touching this tree, how connected we're like pulsing in a solar plexus. I mean, like this, it felt like a solar plexus at that moment, but like this solar plexus thing that we're all existing in. And so this conversation that we're having is really important, because as this year evolves, there's going to be more that comes up. There's going to, this is really a transition from 2020 to 2024 for the complete balance of this to harmonize, for us to then have some type of normalcy, but it will not still be normal. It's still going to be a new expanded way of being. And so where I want to go with that, because it's funny, I didn't know I was going to do that, but the nervous system, I want to then go into chakras, because I know a lot of you following and a lot of the people here, you guys know a little bit about this stuff. Like you're like, okay, calling the system. Like a lot of you have worked in corporate, or you've maybe had a marriage that you kind of just fell into, and it wasn't really based on love or based on adventure, or you fell into a business because it was like a family business. And so I really want to expand this, like what the system could be for you, what is possible. And as you follow me online, like you guys, I literally have monetized so many things in my life, and will continue this year. We have so many amazing product launches, but I want to go from this nervous system to how that relates to the energy chakra system that's breathing and existing in us.
Okay, great. So each chakra system actually is on top of an endocrine system, which regulates hormones in the bodies. So the interesting part, I'll give you a prime example from my own life. So your solar plexus, otherwise known as the Manipura, is associated with the color yellow and is associated with your personal power. Okay. So whenever you give too much of your personal power away to someone who isn't grateful for it, or you disempower someone else, this becomes inflamed, which also connects to cortisol levels in the body. So whenever the body goes through stress, it creates cortisol to protect itself. So when people get stressed out and they gain weight, they gain not only spiritual weight, but also physical weight on top of the weight that they think they have. So it's like compounded stress that's being represented physically in the body. For example, Colleen and I did some test runs with some videos a month ago, and we noticed that in the progression of the videos, I got smaller.
While we're doing the videos,
because we were talking about things, and we were releasing energy while we were talking. So it was wild. Yeah. So your chakras aren't just associated with some sort of spiritual energy or some sort of energy outside, inside, metaphysical, but also science as well. It is scientifically connected as well. And honestly, like science and metaphysics are not that separate from each other.
No, but I wanted to go into something. So could you just go through like what each of the chakras are? I like name them. And the other thing I want to say before you do that is, one way that I started to play with this, guys, when I became introduced to this like 3 years ago, was I would look at what color I was wearing on days. I would look at what food was in my fridge. And usually the color that's around you the most, that chakra is trying to speak to you, asking for attention. But anyway, so I want you to kind of go into that part of it.
So Muladhara is red, which is the root chakra, which actually has to do where you feel at peace or at home within your own body. The Svadhisthana is the sacral chakra, which is orange. This usually is associated, a lot of people think that the root and the sacral are associated with sexuality, but they're actually interconnected in a way where for me in my own personal journey, orange is the color of forgiveness. So it's about forgiving generational trauma.
Wow.
For me, it's different for other people. Yellow is what I was talking about before, which is Manipura, which is the solar plexus, which is associated with personal power. Also, yellow is a detoxification and anti-inflammatory color as well, which is very interesting. Green is Anahata, which is the heart chakra. So this is about receiving. And a lot of people don't know, but this is where the thymus is associated. So a lot of people associate that the third eye is where we receive messages from. But this, a lot of people believe, used to be the actual third eye was here, because we didn't need to vocalize how we felt, because we could just send vibrations to each other. That's an interesting topic to go into another time. Then Vishuddha is green. Blue has to do with your expression of self and your authenticity of self expressed through the throat chakra. So whenever you repress parts of yourself, that's why people get sick. That's why they get colds. That's why they get sinus infections. Then But blue is also a really interesting color because it has to do with awareness and awareness of self as well. Then you go up into indigo, which is ajna, which is the a third eye. And that has to do with deep psychic energy, and being able to not only receive messages, but to also perceive energy around you. A lot of people, when they do energy work with me, their pineal gland decalcifies, or when they work with other people or work on themselves and will think that they have the flu. I've had a lot of people that have worked where I've worked remotely on them that all of a sudden the next day think that they have COVID, but it's because their pineal gland is decalcifying.
That's so funny.
And then Sahasrara is the violet. That's the last chakra. But it's not, there's more than 7 chakras, but these are the base chakras.
We're just doing base.
Base first. And then that has to do with your connection to God and the divine. So usually whenever you have had times in your life where God or the universe, however you call it, source, wants you to change when you ask for change, but then you blame God for it, that usually will shut this chakra down. So usually a lot of people who think that they can't see or perceive energy, or think that they have a complete disconnection to God, it's because something happened to them when they were a child or to their parents where they shut that down.
Wow. So for those of you watching, one thing I want to say, so why I think this is really important as well is because our chakra system, we're not going to go super deep into this, but our chakra system, you guys, is the real system. So what is the system? It's these orbits. Well, that's probably not the best word, but anyway, it's these fields that are in our body that help self-regulate energy moving through us. And energy can be moving, like you just said, straight through vertical, and it also can move through us horizontal like this. And it can happen, it always happening simultaneously. And it's really important to start to be present with yourself, to go, what is my actual body saying? Like, what am I feeling? Like, ow, I'm in pain. Okay. Where is the pain? In your heart? Where is your heart closed? Where are you unhealed? Forgiveness. I had no idea about that with the orange, but it makes so much sense. And I have a friend, I need a message after this, because I like, oh my gosh, it's like, and my new book, An Uncompromised Life, I talk about generational lineage. There's a whole chapter in that. But with what I want to share is like that's the system, guys. The system is understanding what colors are around me, becoming aware of what's speaking to me, and how is my body literally manifesting things in my reality, from clothing to a ton of, like, so many things, for me to actually be present, for me to actually feel this system. I am the system. It is me. It's not them. It's not this person. It's not the media. It's me. It's my personal power. It's me who's in charge of getting the results that I want. And where I want to go into that, because a lot of you will go in there, but the chakras are totally internal. Like there is nothing you have to do outside of you to get access to that. Zero. There's tools, there's people you can get around, there's environments, there's experiences, but you can do it all sitting by yourself. There's no need to go somewhere specifically. And then with that, the other thing is that a lot of you are very, see a lot of things. You're very vision present. And so something that we want to move into is auras. So chakras is something that it goes inward, and how we described it, or how I was saying it before, is like your chakra system, basically how it's aligned or how it's going or how it's moving through will then radiate out your aura. And a lot of you who can see things or see things around people, you're looking at the aura, and their aura is basically 2 things. One, a bunch of us could look at one person and we could all see something different, depending on our unique gifts, what we're being reflected in our reality, and what our focus of our life is. However, I want to just go into a little bit from going chakras internally to auras, if you can describe it.
Sure, yeah. So your aura is your electromagnetic field that extends out of your body. Some people say it's 3 feet. Some people say it's 6 feet. I mean, I've had times where it's expanded, or I've worked on other people where theirs has expanded very far out, as far as we can say. But your aura is also an extension of who you are. It's for example, okay, so this is my best way to explain it. When you're walking a dog around on a leash, a lot of people don't realize that when the dog walks up to another dog and they go like that energy is transferred into the dog, and so they think it's because the other dog is freaking out at that dog, but it's because your animal is feeling your fear, right? So your aura is an extension of who you are, therefore it attracts things to you.
Love. Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This is wild.
Yeah.
Wild. Okay. Right before we started this, wild. Okay. I'm like, bring it in. Okay. Usually, you guys, if you follow me, you see that I attract pennies all the time. I was going to say something different. I attract a lot of things all the time, but one thing is I attract pennies. And I've done this like my whole life. Whenever I go places, like literally there's always been money on the ground because money falls from the sky. And, basically when I see it, I know that I'm in the right place at the right time. Like it's basically like confirmation. So there's been times, you guys, like I have gotten like 10 pennies in one day. Like it's insane. Like, and I'm like, okay, this is like really, and like when there's that many, I don't pick them all up, but if it's like one or two, I'll be like, okay, well, 2021, you guys, I have some amazing big goals. We're doing new launches of new products and new creations. And I was just telling Alexander right before we started this, I found 2 quarters.
Or did you?
Like in as at the start of January.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God, I think I just expanded my ability to receive because my goals are so much bigger for my business.
Wow.
And even from what you just said of like the penny to the quarter, I know that doesn't seem like a big deal, guys, but if I found 10 quarters in a day versus 10 pennies, obviously that's not the end of the world, but that compounds over time. And so It's interesting that you even just brought that up. And then we just talked about it literally. And so what I want you guys to know is everything around you with what you just said is because of something you're attracting, like the relationships you're in, the friendships you have, like it can be kind of scary because you're like, well, I don't really like anything that's around me. All right. I'm really angry at people. Like I feel really angry by the media. Like I don't have a TV. I haven't had one in a long time. Probably won't ever again, maybe, but I don't know, like probably not. And so I have no idea what that reality feels like. And so it's interesting when people who play in that space, they become attracted to me, or like my parents, like it's almost like I don't even know how to respond in certain ways because my aura has expanded to such a place where you guys, like I literally don't attract those types of conversations. And so this took me a while though, because when I first started my business, there was some denser mentors or denser people that I was attracting. And I had to go through those lessons to understand, how did I attract that person in my reality? Why was I attracted to that? And what needed to still be healed in me? And so I feel like that's a really good way for you guys to look at like internally your chakras, like what's going on, what's happening, and start to Google like, what does this mean spiritually? What emotion is attached to this? Like what's Chinese medicine with this? Like start to like do it real time to get answers to questions instead of just going, oh, my arm hurts, or oh, I stubbed my toe. Like get curious and start to look at these things, because the system that we're sharing with you, like chakras and understanding it, and then how that affects your aura going outwards. And then that affects what can actually be attracted into your reality and what you can play with and what you can feel with. It all matters. It all matters.
Yeah, it all matters. And also like you have such a huge chance and opportunity and choice to be able to choose something outside of what you've been choosing for most of your life that has kept you in this sort of hamster wheel of insanity.
Which is the system. The false system. Yeah. And what we're trying to shine a light on is the true system. And the other thing I want to go with that, because some of you may be listening to Colleen, like how is there truth to this between a healer and you? Like how are you guys able to speak on this? And one thing I know to be true, when I really want to hone in on this, is people have died. Like we'll go to war over the truth. People will literally go to war over the truth, but the true truth needs no defending.
Oh yeah.
The true truth needs no defense. And the only way you as one person can get into this system that we're sharing or remembering it, because it's always available. It's not like there's an initiation. It's just remembering it's there, is for you to really hone in on what is your truth, because your true truth, like your reason for being here as a human being, your reason for expressing like your purpose, your why, like that truth will always align you to these universal truths. It may take a different avenue than what Alexander did or I did, but it will always guide you back into that.
And always remember that you can take bits and pieces of every single spiritual principle and imbue it into your own practice. So just because we tell you something or someone else tells you something else, just remember that it's whatever works for you, you know?
And what's truth for you? Like, when I first started this journey, like I always kind of knew about energies and chakra. Like I knew about it, but I didn't know the words, let's say. Like I wouldn't, like I saw things, but I wouldn't have been like, oh, that's called. There's a whole thing on that.
Yeah.
But I didn't really know a lot about auras, you guys, till probably recently, like probably like the last year, I started playing with it more. Like I'd see things, but I had no idea what I was seeing or what was happening. But the more that I've dived into, like, oh, wow, my fridge was filled with a lot of green. My heart really needs to be open. Or wow, like I got all red peppers when I could have got the orange ones or this. Like, and I don't consciously do it. You just grab it. But no decision you make is by accident, because your body is speaking. You need red. There's safety. There's rooting. There's something being required. Even my clothing, like, if I go shopping, I'm like, wow, I got a lot of nudes or I got a lot of this. Like, it's always giving us feedback, you guys. Like your life is always giving you feedback. And so, with that, it's important to know it, because that's what you're radiating out. And from what you're radiating, that's when you can start to make different choices on what system you desire to play in. So anything else you want to share?
No, I feel very satiated by this conversation.
Yeah.
I feel really good about it.
Okay, so anyway, I just want to say, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. If you know someone who this would really benefit, feel free to tag them, share it. And I'm going to let Alexander say how you can also reach out to him. But I just want to share with that, make sure that you listen every Monday, because we have 3 more of these. So it's a total of 4. So, and my new book, An Uncompromised Life, we have 30 days in January. We're doing a campaign where you can get it, a signed copy, just for $22, or you can still get the full Uncompromised Life experience for $88. We are asking, our goal is to get 500 copies that are sold, because it really helps my publisher and me be able to get into more bookstores. And we want that, because this book that I wrote is medicine. It's getting amazing people into the system. You guys, it's into the true system. And so make sure I'll leave a link here, but you do that. And then also, Alexander, please share where to find you.
I also have read half of the book now. I haven't even told you yet. It's fucking awesome. So yeah. So I also bought my own copy, because you support your friends. So yeah, if you would like to reach me, I am under Instagram as Alex Mei today. It's MEI. And then also my website is alexandermei.com. That's MEI.com. And if you'd like to reach me through email, it's magiclegato, LEGATO @gmail.com.
I love this. And the other thing I was going to say is, I actually did a healing session, you guys, with Alexander when I was really in a deep transition. Like, it was a lot of density. There's a lot of things. The work really works. I know it can be scary, especially as a woman. It can be scary to be like, healer men, what's going on? Like it can be, because there's things you don't know. And I had a lot of that. And I remember, like, in one of the parts, Alexander and I were there, and we're doing more, it's energetic work. So maybe you guys don't totally know things, but you're working on your energetic body, and then for it to come back into your physical body. And so Alexander and I were in the energetic body, and he could like tell I was like so afraid, and not of him, but it was like to let a man come into that space. And it really transforms and transmutes the current system you're in. And that's the importance of going into something like a healer versus Western medicine, because you're playing on different systems, and then you can integrate it back in the body, where Western medicine is just putting things in your body.
Yes.
So anyway, we love you. Share it, and we'll talk soon.